it's like you were just leveraging the resources and skill and brilliance that you already had in a more conscious direction.
That's exactly right. It was stepping into full consciousness. And I'm not going to say that that wasn't without freaking fear.
Welcome to the Success Sessions. My name is Jessie Johnson, coach to spiritual teachers, healers, and seven-figure entrepreneurs all over the world. And I'm so honored and delighted today to introduce my dear friend and one of my mentors, the incredible Tricia Brouk, who helps all kinds of people get their message out onto bigger platforms through stages and screens. She is a brilliant theater expert, and she brings her artistry to everything that she does. I love this woman so much. I'm so excited to explore her relationship to success with you guys today. Tricia, welcome.
Jessie, I am so excited to be here. I can't even tell you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we like to start with the same question every time. So the first opening question for you is, what was your relationship to success as a child, and how were you wrong?
Well, the way I defined success for myself as a child was hearing yes from everyone. And I was so wrong about that because I would take jobs from anybody who offered me one as a dancer, whether they had good choreography or not. I would just, if I had yes, I would take the job. If I had yes for the audition, I would show up and work for free. That was the biggest mistake I learned about what success was.
I love that you're bringing this in, because I think this is such a common theme among people, among women, this is very common. So thank you for naming that. I certainly relate to that. Not knowing how to say no, that's kind of part of what it was like. The no wasn't really in the real estate of options.
Right. And being able to define my success by any old person who would give me an opportunity. And that was a big mistake.
What changed? Like, how can you describe the turning point when that started to shift for you?
I specifically remember I was dancing with a company when I first moved to New York, and this company was paying us. And that was very unusual, to be paid to actually go to rehearsal, to be paid to perform. And I thought, this is the worst choreography I have ever done. I'm embarrassed. I'm not going to invite any of my friends to see the show. And I thought, because they're saying yes to me, I don't have to say yes to them. I can say, no, thank you. I know you're giving me this opportunity, but I would prefer to define my own success. And that might be working for less money in this moment. It might be not working at all until the absolute right job comes along, and I say yes to it.
So powerful. Can you share how old you were when that moment happened?
I was 20. And I was dancing with a company that was so terrible. I hated going to rehearsal, but it was that thing where I moved to New York to dance. I should take any job that comes my way. I should say yes to anything that comes my way. Anybody who says you can dance for my company, I should say, yes, I should dance for your company. And that was not success. That was immaturity. That was an unconsciousness about myself. And again, going back to what's my worth, what's my value, what's my self-worth, and trusting, and this is new, trusting that the absolute right marriage of choreographer and dancer would happen. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think I'm such a compassionate director, because I know the delicacies of that relationship, and I will always show up in a way that serves my actors, my speakers, my dancers. And that is something that I think I learned from mistaking what success was early on.
Well, that's fair. I want to hear you say more about that, because what I hear you naming is as your definition changed, part of what also was happening was that you were learning from the contrast. It wasn't just like, oh, I was doing that poorly and then I figured it out and started doing it well. It was like there was something that you needed to actually experience in that undervaluing yourself or not realizing how much more you could receive. Can you say more about that?
For sure. I think there was a push and pull with me from the beginning. I moved to New York and had zero interest in being a starving artist. I wanted to go to dinner. I wanted to buy shoes. I wanted to have an apartment that didn't have 5 other people. That was never on the table for me. So I started my first company when I was 22 years old, and that enabled me to pay for everything I wanted and then choose the jobs in the world of art that maybe didn't pay, but I was still making the living that I wanted to make always. And so it was a strange balance, Jessie, because over here I was like, running an empire. And over here I was doing the dancer thing and taking jobs with people that sucked. And I kept having this confusion, right? Like why I'm in charge, but I'm not in charge. So I realized when I took another job where they were paying us, and I found out they were paying the men more than us, I was done. I stepped up and I said, this is A, discrimination, black and white, and B, I want to be paid more because I'm a principal. And he wouldn't take my offer, and I quit. And that is when I realized, I don't have to take whatever job somebody offers me. I can actually hold out for what I believe in. I need to be the one to say yes. I need to be the one when I go into an audition and determine whether or not I want to work for them. And that is really when the shift happened. And that has since applied to the rest of my life. So I think it was just continuing to learn and being conscious of that tug of war that was going on internally, and trusting that, yes, there's a million dancers in New York and most of them are women. However, the one position that I need, desire, and meant to have will find me if I keep showing up fully.
This is so relevant. I love that you're speaking about this. I see this. I actually just got an email from a client yesterday who's she's going through a new level of growth in her business. She wants to make more money than she's ever wanted to make before, and the demand is there. She's like expanding her business, or she's investing in a lot of different places, and so it's really important also that she make more money than she's ever made before.
Right.
And she's noticing where she's tempted to make compromises, where like, this client isn't actually showing up at the level that I want to work with, but I feel like I have to say yes to them because they're ready to pay. And so much of her work is resisting that temptation to accept less than what she actually wants.
Yeah.
And this was a huge part of my growth too. I mean, I knew it at the time, and also now I recognize how much I was still compromising, even when I thought I was really holding a high standard. It's like, it's such a radical thing, what you're saying, that you can have what you want without any compromise.
Absolutely. And it requires a constant consciousness. You have to be paying attention every second of the day, because even little compromises like, I'm not going to empty the dishwasher. Seriously, like those little things could potentially be in the back of your mind, preventing you from having more space for your clients. And I know that sounds silly, but that little compromise, when I think about who I have been and still am in the world of theater and performance, I didn't realize until recently, because I've started thinking about the similarities between showbiz and entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I have been a risk taker my entire life. I never was going to make money off of producing theater. It was always a risk. It was a massive risk when I decided to produce a feature film. So that guaranteed risk and zero fear about it is who I've always been. So why now all of a sudden in the world of entrepreneurship do I worry about investing, or do I worry about the clients? Like, it's the same thing. And if you can think about like that white hot desire, I am going to produce my feature film, period. Don't ask how, just know it to be true. Now, did the end game change? Sure, of course. You can't be attached to how things end up, because then you can't move forward. But that's something that I've been recently thinking about in terms of applying directly to my business as an entrepreneur. And it's been amazing, the similarities. Now, I'm certainly more conscious and mindful in terms of the universe, source, the quantum leap, all the stuff that comes with the, spiritual leadership. But it's really the same. The high risk is there.
Why do you think you experienced it differently in your business?
Becoming conscious, really. And this is something that I've just started talking about, because I have been a limitless creator my entire life. I know how to get shit done, and I know how to create. It is who I am. It is in my blood. It's in my soul. Now, grit, tenacity, discipline, and talent can only get you so far. And I'm not joking about that. And I've gotten far. I'm very successful. But when I became conscious that I can't even see the success that's before me. So I need to get out of my own way and start being an even more limitless creator and become consciously competent. And then the world exploded. It literally opened up, Jessie. And that started with me moving. It started with me saying, nope, compromise. This apartment is too small. Not anymore. I need sunshine. In fact, I need wraparound windows.
In New York City, guys, let's just put it into perspective here.
Yes. And guess what I get to look out at every single day? The Alvin Ailey dancers. I now live on Alvin Ailey Place. So that is the sort of thing where I didn't realize I was compromising. And when I stepped into the trust, when I stepped into the competence and the unconscious and basically my potential, that is when everything became even brighter for me.
I love that. I feel like so privileged, because I met you when you were going through this change. I think that you were probably living in your old apartment when we met. Is that true?
It was, yes.
So I didn't totally know what you were doing until after you'd done it, but I was witnessing this exponential growth. And I think it's super cool, just the way that you're emphasizing the word consciousness, that was the critical lever. And shifting your relationship to, like, what I hear you talking about is toleration. You were like, oh, wait a minute, I'm tolerating here. I don't want to tolerate. What does it look like to not tolerate? Oh, it looks like this. Okay, now totally new, like, destination, and immediately you found the resources to create that new destination. It wasn't like you didn't have to go get a new graduate degree. You didn't have to go and like train for 4 more years to do something. It's like you were just leveraging the resources and skill and brilliance that you already had in a more conscious direction.
That's exactly right. It was stepping into full consciousness. And I'm not going to say that wasn't without freaking fear, sheer terror, a little bit of tightness in the chest. That was all very much part of it. But what I realized was that was my body saying, it's time to grow. It was my body, my soul, my consciousness saying, this is right. And you haven't felt this before, so it feels different. It feels new. And it was really not fear like you're going to die, you're going to get hurt. It was, how is this going to happen, and why am I doing this? Well, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know why I'm going to do this, and I'm going to trust that the outcome is going to serve me. And it has served me beyond. And if I had limited my vision of what was possible, I couldn't have imagined all of this. So that would have been a blinder that I'd put in my way. And when I think about the feature film that I'm going to write and direct, I stay open to what that is. The universe is going to tell me what it is. And it happens with talks. The talk reveals itself to you. The ending, the opening, it is a living, breathing thing. And if you stay open and you're conscious and you're paying attention to everything and everyone around you and you're listening, the ideas and the talk and the creativity, it drops in. And that's why you have to just completely stay open and be conscious at all times, because your opportunities, I promise you, are right in front of you. You're just not seeing them.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm getting hit by as we're talking about this also is that when I met you, I might have not even seen all the opportunities that you were offering, but the only one that I remember being aware of was that I could like potentially be interviewed by you on your podcast, which I wanted and did. That was kind of how we started to get to know each other. As you transformed your life inside, outside, and in your business, like, you know, in terms of like your own consciousness, your own apartment, and the way that you're moving through the world, but then also explicitly the way that you're serving people, suddenly you were offering me way more ways to learn from you and benefit from your experience. And so I just want to flag that, because I think that that's something that also, it's so catalyzing and motivating for people who want to be of service, who want to contribute, to know that all that discomfort that you went through, all the terror and fear and uncertainty that stepping into that mystery required, is the same thing that positioned you to actually give more, help more, serve more.
Right.
And that I'm a direct recipient of that more.
Mm.
And like also paid you, you know, so you got to have some more also, but like I feel like mostly it's like the outside world that is benefiting from your amplification and your success and your growth. And so I think I have a question, but I also just want to thank you. Like, thank you for doing the work. Thank you for saying yes, even when it was scary. Thank you for doing the work to shift your consciousness, because it has changed my life. You bring a level of excellence and artistry to an entrepreneurial space where I have not personally experienced anyone else doing that. Like, there's tons of people that coach speakers. Many of them are fantastic at what they do. I think it's a wonderful world. You are unique in bringing this soul, I feel like soul, to the process. And I mean, the world is a better place because you're doing what you're doing. So I'm super, super grateful just as a recipient of your mastery.
Thank you. That means so much to me. I really appreciate that, Jessie.
Yeah. I want to hear you talk about this. I think this is connected, what success means to you now. And specifically, like, I'm interested in two things. One is for you personally, but I think also when I hear you talk about how the talk kind of writes itself almost, like it reminds me of the way that Michelangelo talked about carving David from the stone, that like David was already in the stone and he was just kind of revealing what was there. So somehow I feel like there's something about success in that conversation too, in the art of what you're doing and what you're helping people to do. So I'd love to hear you talk about both of those things.
I think it's two parts. The success of watching a speaker receive the direction so that they can see what I see, and being able to own that, to step into that fully, and to realize that, oh my gosh, I have a story, and I have a story that people want to hear, and I have a story that could potentially change or even save someone's life. That is ultimate success for me. When I am able to pull back the layers and hold up a mirror and really just show these human beings how valuable, how important, how responsible they must now be with this information. And they start to soar, they start to fly and take stages, and their confidence, and they literally walk onto my stage one way and they walk off another. And that to me is ultimate success in terms of the artistry. The other part of this is that they start to really fall back in love with themselves.
Mm.
And that's something that I see happen over and over. And it's usually because many of my speakers will come to me with painful stories that they want to share so that they can help other people who maybe have gone through the same thing. So with those stories come shame, embarrassment, shutting down, all the things. And when they learn how to tell the story in a certain way that is serving an audience and not making them feel uncomfortable and empowering themselves as storytellers while they're sharing it, all of a sudden, all of the shame and embarrassment and detachment goes away, and they begin to love themselves again. And that is another piece of this success that is so fulfilling and powerful for me.
I've seen this happen, and we've spoken about this, so I think this is a good place to share that there was a point in my career as an entrepreneur where I was kind of skeptical of, it was almost like I was witnessing all these peers and colleagues kind of run after a speaking opportunity, and then hire some speaking coach to help them get on a stage, and like, before they were making money, before they were running a business, and I was just like, I don't know if that's responsible. Like, I don't know if they should be doing that. Like, I love Tricia, I trust her, but like, what's really happening here? And then I joined your program, and I got to work with you over the course of 6 weeks, which was like, that's my favorite thing that ever happened. I like literally moved my life to New York for 2 months just so I could be there with you in person. And witnessing, this is kind of a tangent, but witnessing you like coach people like a dramaturg, you know, like a proper theater director, was just so satisfying, because you're hardcore and unapologetic, and also really efficient in that space. Like, I got to watch people go through some of what you're talking about, but the biggest shift that I witnessed happened like 6 months or 8 months later, when I re-encountered one of the people who was in my cohort. And she was like when I met her, she was sort of timid and very, very sweet, but I would never, ever have thought she was like a serious entrepreneur. I would never have thought to hire her for myself. Like, it wasn't even a conscious thing. After she was on your stage, her whole embodiment completely transformed, and it was visible. All these things that you're talking about were visible. Her confidence changed, her vision had changed, the way that she was seeing opportunities in her business had changed, her level of toleration or compromise had reduced, and she was showing up so authentically. All her kindness and compassion was still deeply present, even more fully expressed, but there was no timidness, there was no hiding, there was no smallness. And that was like the selling point for me. Not in terms of you, because I was already sold on you, but in terms of like how powerful and important your work is whenever it happens, including before anyone has even started a business. Because this woman's like capacity to actually, like, in my mind, the confidence, the knowing of our gift is kind of step one. Like, there's no business to create if we don't have that deep sense of self. Right. And that grows over time, but people step into your container and you give them that. Mm-hmm. And then they can go out and literally accomplish whatever they want to do. And I just, if you can't tell already, I'm like a big fan. Big fan of Tricia Brouk. Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big fan of yours too, Jessie. This is just, I love talking about this with you.
In your own, you said it like a few minutes ago, you were like, I'm very successful now. I feel like I still want to hear more about day to day, moment to moment. How do you measure that? How do you keep yourself focused on the celebration of what you're doing really well, and still, as I know you do, like refining and improving and reflecting?
Yeah. Well, in terms of I'm really successful, that was like before I became consciously competent. I was unconsciously competent, and I was really successful as as David Nagel says, an unconscious competent.
Yes.
But when I became conscious and fully aware of my limitless potential, then what I couldn't have even imagined began to happen. And this daily practice is gratitude, designing my day, joyfully receiving wealth and abundance every single day, and not worrying anymore. If I have a worry, I put it on a to-do list because it means I just have to do something. You know, it's usually not a worry, it's a task. And when you differentiate that, all of a sudden your brain opens up. So every single day I am practicing receiving, I am practicing being creative, and it's very, very important to me in terms of my day-to-day. I have a team. This is new. I have a team. I have people who are supporting me so that I don't have to do all the things that prevent me from serving my clients. I rely on them. I empower them. It's important that they give me their feedback and their ideas. I want us to collaborate. It is not a hierarchy. It is a collaboration. And that is part of the living, breathing entity of my business as well. And so every single day I am constantly thinking bigger. And when I started my company and called it The Big Talk, I didn't really understand that I chose well. Because yes, everything I do is bigger, and I want you to be bigger, and I want to live a bigger life, and you can have bigger ideas and bigger visions. So it's really a happy accident that I chose that for the name of my company. But it really is. I want everyone to feel like they can take a big stage and that they have a big life to live, because the universe is abundant. There is enough and more for everyone. And it has got to be a decision that you make. And if you're working with Jessie, you're making the right decision. It's the decision you make to know that anything is possible for you. And we all need coaches. That's the other thing that I think is important. If we ever begin to think we've reached the pinnacle, that's a mistake. And that means studying with the right people. It means studying every day. It means having a spiritual practice. It means understanding that you are showing up 150% for your clients. And if something is in the way from that, whether it's tolerance or sleep even, right? You have to figure that out. Highly productive human beings work at it. It is not something that you get to a certain level and all of a sudden I'm sleeping well. My aura ring says I'm sleeping well. My weight is at the perfect amount. I'm working out 3 times a week. Well, you're going to plateau if you stay there. You have to constantly keep pushing yourself if you want to be the kind of successful entrepreneur and highly productive human who is going to have massive impact in the world. And those tiny micro adjustments is what make us more successful.
Have you experienced anyone criticizing or naysaying your vision or your success at any point in your trajectory?
Oh, sure. I've had people post on the YouTube channel about things that I've done and said. And I actually love it, because what I get to do is then share that with my community and say, these people posted this, and I want you to know that it didn't bother me at all, because if I'm affecting someone in one way, that's great. But if you get more visible, if you have more credibility, if you put yourself out there to serve more people are going to not like it. That's just part of the deal. Letting people judge you, you have to just get used to it. And part of my showbiz skin also has protected me from that. I've heard no from a million people. So I think the one thing that's interesting is, in this space, there can be a lot of talk, right? And I implore and inspire and encourage everyone to trust that integrity rises to the top always.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, and I agree with that. And it's a long game. I think that's part of, for me, I've been reflecting on this recently. I was an only child growing up. I did not get roughed up enough as a kid. So tender skinned. And so then, thank God, I started teaching high school math in New York City public schools. And that gave me so much more resilience that I hadn't had to develop it. And so I think that's really powerful. And I think counterintuitive for a lot of people, that actually it's hearing the no, or getting bullied in school, or what, like these things that we're kind of like, we don't really want to experience them. But when we experience them, we learn what we're capable of in a new way.
Absolutely.
And then we can bring that resilience into so many other areas of our life. So for you, I'm imagining it was a lot of auditions. For me, it was like, you know, hanging around with 100 mean 14-year-olds. You know, it's like those things are the biggest gifts that we have when it comes to kind of being willing to stay in devotion to the big vision and not stop.
Yeah, and I love that you said stay in devotion to the big vision. It has to be, you have to nurture that big vision at all times. And I want to share that I was working on a Broadway-bound musical about Johnny Carson. I was dramaturging it. I was a female director, first-time female director for Broadway. I worked on this musical for 3 years. It was cast. They had the money. We were going to Broadway. I fell in love with Johnny Carson because I did all this research. It was going to be incredible. I was also the choreographer. It was badass. And it went away. And that kind of grief, that kind of mourning process, and I'm really resilient, so I can bounce back pretty quickly, but I experienced lots of grief and sadness and mourning. And why I'm sharing this is because when my speakers come to me and they say, I didn't book the gig, the TEDx fell apart, something happened and I didn't make the whatever, I have that compassion from experience so that I can coach them to the other side. So I think all of our failures, all of our crunchy experiences, they are absolutely gifts.
I love that, crunchy. Yeah. It's so, and for me that, like, hearing you say that, even, it's like I know this, but hearing you say it in words is nourishing, because it's like in the moment when the next shit hits the fan, because it will. I don't know what the next thing will be for me, but I know that there will be something. Probably today, like there's something every day that requires my like up leveling of devotion, my up leveling of attention, my growth. And to know that when there's crunch, when there's contrast, when there's something that feels like, oh, this is like not my personal preference, to know that there's something beyond that that's gonna, when I get there and look back, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm so happy that that happened. I wasn't necessarily enjoying it while it was happening, but after the fact, just knowing that decreases the suffering that I experience while it's happening.
Right.
Sometimes instantaneously. And so I think that's one of those things that looks like magic, but it's not. It's like this comes from practice. It comes from hearing no 1,000 times. It comes from getting my knee scraped and like getting back up on the bike. All those things are what has given me the capacity to shorten the length of time that I'm in those contrast moments and shorten the amount of suffering that I experience, or decrease the amount of suffering that I experience. So I just love, I'm like, this is resilience conversation. This is very, very cool.
And I use this, what you're saying, in terms of, oh, I wish that this was happening. So like the gripping, I wish that this wasn't happening. I wish this was happening instead. I wish. Well, the second you let go of the wishing and acknowledge that it's happening, the suffering goes away, like you said. So it doesn't become this sort of ego-driven, I'm hurting, I'm suffering. It's just fact. This is happening right now, so how are we going to solve the problem and move past it?
Yeah. Byron Katie and David Nagel come up real strongly when you say that. It's like, yeah, I really appreciate that teaching. Oh, good. I love this conversation with you, Tricia.
Me too.
I think it would be really helpful. There's so many ways that you help people. And I could share just from my own personal experience, and I don't know half of what you do or half of what you have available to you, but I could share from my personal experience for almost every 5-minute mark in the call, like, oh, you know, like Tricia wrote this article about asking for a raise, like asking for more money, like holding that vision from the beginning of our conversation, really like not compromising. So there's that. There's like, if you are a speaker or you want to become a speaker, anything that you can do to put yourself in front of Tricia's attentive gaze is absolutely worth it immediately and forever. And you do so much. So I would love for you to just kind of share, like, what do you think would be the most helpful and useful, like, starting point for someone who feels drawn to you and wants to know more about how to experience your mastery?
Well, if you go to the Big Talk podcast, you can hear me interviewing speakers. You can go through my coaching process. I actually do live coaching with 4 different speakers in I think it's season 6, Journey to the Stage. I interview thought leaders and speakers and TEDx organizers, and it's really a great sort of introduction into everything that I'm doing, and it gives you an opportunity to be with me for sure. Of course, my website, you can find everything there. And I would love to actually share with your audience, because this is something that people get really stuck on. When they decide they want to be a speaker, they start applying to conferences and applying to TEDx events. And they don't have the skills yet to understand what the organizer is looking for. So I would love to offer a free resource on how to pitch event organizers. And all you have to do is text pitch now, all caps, to the numbers 44222.
Okay, so let's just do it together. I'm going to do it right now and make sure that everybody knows just how easy this is. So what's the number again? 4422?
44222.
With 3 2s. Okay, and then all caps, pitch now. Done. Okay, so no one has any confusion. That is very possible to do. Okay, great. So, oh my God, Tricia, thank you so much for everything that you have done in my life. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing in the world. Your impact is so visible to me. And I'm just honored to know you and continue to grow with you and alongside you and with your encouragement and encouraging you. It's one of my favorite relationships. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It means so much. And I know how much work you're doing in the world. It's such incredible, powerful, transformational work. So we are both on the same page with how we show up, and I appreciate you so much.
Yeah. Back to back, we're standing just like shining our hearts out in the world. It's such a pleasure.
Yes.
Comment in the YouTube little comment section. Let us know anything that you loved about this video, any questions that you have. I'll make sure that we answer. I reply to every single comment, so anything that comes to me, I'll address directly. And if there's anything for Tricia, I'll find the answer. So enjoy, let us know what you think, and we are both cheersing, celebrating your success, whatever that means to you. Thanks so much, guys.
Everything you want is already